Section 1. Hello everyone. Tonight, we're going to slip through the cracks of time into a place where the cheers were louder than screams and the sand soaked up more than just sweat. You've heard of gladiators, maybe even imagined yourself as one. But tonight, you'll discover why you wouldn't last a single day in the Roman gladiatorial arena. Not because you're soft, not because you're weak, but because no one, not even the strongest, was truly built for this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. And if you're still awake by the end of this story, drop your location and what time it is where you are. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise. And let's get down to business tonight. You don't wake gently. You don't even really wake. You are dragged mentally and physically into consciousness by the clang of an iron bell echoing through the dark, sweat-slick corridor of the ludus. The training school smells like old sandals and dying hopes. Your back is pressed against straw that crackles with the kind of itch only poverty makes tolerable. A faint draft creeps through the barred window, reminding you that it's still not dawn. But dawn isn't when your day begins. It's when someone decides it's your turn to bleed. Your name isn't yours anymore. It was stripped the moment you were sold. Maybe you were a prisoner of war, maybe a criminal. Maybe you just owed someone money and they liked games more than repayment plans. Whatever the reason, you're here now, a branded body in a lineup of other tired shapes lurching to their feet. No one talks, not because they can't, but because it's pointless. You stagger toward the main yard. The hallway is lined with small flickering torches, more smoke than flame, and you catch your own reflection in a dull bronze plate. Sunken eyes, unshaven face, a bruise along your jaw you don't remember getting. But you're alive, for now. And in this place, that's a kind of victory. Outside the lanista, your trainer and your jailer paces in circles like a lion too old to fight but still hungry for power. He barks orders in Latin, spits tobacco or blood, who knows, and slaps a wooden rod against his palm for no real reason except to remind you who's boss. His tunic is cleaner than yours. His nose is crooked from some past glory. You hear him mutter your name, the new one, Caprarius. No idea what it means, but it's yours now. You line up with the others, bare feet on cold, gritty stone. Some of them look like they belong here. Scarred veterans. Silent mountains of muscle. But others? A boy who still has baby fat, a man with a limp, a Gaul whose eyes dart like a bird's. Everyone's equal now, equal in dirt, equal in fear. Surge, the lanista snaps. You rise on command. Every muscle protests like your body forgot it was signed up for this again. And then the routine begins. First the run. 5 laps around the yard through puddles that smell suspiciously like urine. Your breath comes fast, your ribs hurt, and you notice the boy next to you is wheezing already. He won't last. No one says it, but you all know it. Next, you grab wooden practice swords. Heavy, rough, unbalanced. Not weapons. Tools of punishment disguised as training. You're assigned a partner, someone new. His eyes plead with you, but the lanista doesn't believe in mercy rounds. You swing. He blocks. Poorly. You tap his shoulder, then his knee, then his side. The third strike knocks him off balance. He falls. Kill or be killed, the lanista shouts. You hesitate. That's your mistake. He grabs your arm and twists hard, pulling you away from the fight. Soft hands make dead men, he growls into your ear. You nod, ashamed. You're not sure why. Not sure if you're sorry for losing or for not hitting harder. Later, as you clean your wooden blade, if you can call it cleaning when you're using the corner of your tunic, you overhear 2 of the older fighters whispering about the next munera. That's the fancy term for what's coming. The public games. 3 days from now. They're opening with elephants, one says. The other chuckles and shakes his head. Good. Maybe they'll step on the nobles. Historians still debate whether these morning routines were as harsh every day or if this was an exception. Some accounts claim the trainers softened over time. Others suggest the brutality was part of the psychology break the man build the beast. Honestly, you believe it. Every moment in this place feels designed to remove a piece of your humanity, to turn you into something useful, something profitable. A spectacle. The sun finally edges over the walls. You feel its warmth on your cheek as you collapse onto a crate in the corner of the yard. You're not alone. A dozen others slump in silence, breathing hard. One vomits. No one flinches. You rub your wrists and glance down. The leather straps leave angry red welts, the same as yesterday, the same as tomorrow. A bird lands on the post nearby, tilts its head at you, then flits away. Lucky bird. A voice calls from the far gate. Food, it shouts. It's not joyful. It's more like a sentence being passed. You rise again, legs trembling, ready for your next task, surviving breakfast. Section 2. You shuffle into the mess hall with the others, though calling it a hall might be generous. It's a shaded lean-to made of rough-hewn timber and stretched hide, the kind of place where rats dine with the condemned. The benches creak like old bones and the long tables are slick with yesterday's soup or sweat or both. No one speaks. No one thanks the cook. You line up, eyes forward, and hold out a clay bowl that's been chipped so often it resembles a puzzle. Into it slops a ladleful of something beige and lumpy. It could be barley, might be lentils, could be last night's barley pretending to be lentils. No one asks. You sit. Your spoon is wooden, splintered at the tip. The first mouthful is warm, the second is gritty, the third you chew around a pebble. You keep going. Hunger doesn't make you picky, it makes you efficient. Around you, others eat in the same robotic trance, 1 bite, 2 bites, swallow, breathe. Across the table sits a man they call Pharaoh. He's built like a siege tower and smells like old leather left in a tomb. His nose is permanently bent left and he always eats with his left hand. Right one's busted too much, he once muttered. He catches you watching and raises an eyebrow. Still hungry, he grunts. You shake your head. He nods and returns to shoveling mush into his mouth. You glance down at your own hands. Calloused, bruised, the fingers of your left hand are still swollen from yesterday's shield drills. You flex them anyway. You don't get a day off for being sore. You don't get a day off for anything. From the far end of the bench, someone coughs wet and rasping. It's Cassius, the kid from Hispania. He's been here 3 weeks. Got tossed in after being caught stealing from a grain merchant. His first fight is coming. His hands tremble as he eats, spilling more than he swallows. You wonder if he'll make it to the arena, or if the cough will kill him first. A thin man named Felonus leans in beside you, voice low. They say we're getting saltfish tomorrow. Means someone big's coming to watch. You raise an eyebrow. How big? He shrugs. Big enough to pretend to care whether we live or die. He chuckles, then winces. He's missing 3 teeth and laughing doesn't come easy anymore. Historians still debate whether gladiators were treated better during high-profile games or simply dressed up to die with flair. Some writings suggest they were fed richer meals before major events. Others claim it was all show-salt fish to hide the rot. Your stomach turns as you finish the last of the porridge. It's not nausea. It's just the ache of a body running on fear and calories shaped like mud. The lanista steps into the doorway. His presence is enough to make spoons pause mid-air. 5 minutes, he says, his voice flat. Then back to the yard. The murmurs stop. Bowls are emptied. Not because you're full, but because you're trained. You stand, stretch your back, and hear it pop like dry twigs. The sun is climbing now, high enough to blind you if you look east. You avoid it. Not out of superstition, though plenty here believe in curses, but because it's easier to ignore the world when you don't stare it in the face. Outside, a guard named Marcellus leans against a column, scratching something obscene into the stone with his dagger. He whistles as you pass. It's not a tune, just noise. He doesn't hate you, but he doesn't care if you die either. He's a reminder that in this place mercy is just another story old men tell drunk in taverns. You hear the clang of iron again. Not a bell this time chains. Someone new is being dragged in through the main gate. You can't see their face, just the shape, thin, ragged, limping. Another volunteer, someone mutters behind you. The joke isn't funny, but it spreads anyway. You return to the yard, your body heavier now. The morning meal didn't fill you. It just slowed the dying. The doctors, the trainers are already waiting. Each one is a veteran of 100 fights, some blind in one eye, others missing fingers. They carry wooden staffs and wear expressions carved from granite. Today's drill is formations, shield walls, phalanx charges. Not because you'll fight in armies, this isn't a legion, but because the crowd loves when gladiators mimic old Roman war tactics. You're not just fighting men. You're reenacting myths. Frontline brace, the doctor shouts. You drop into position, shield up, knees bent, sword tucked close. Advance. You lunge forward with the others, boots sliding in the dust. Shields slam together. The noise is thunder. The impact rattles your teeth. Again, you repeat the drill. 10 times, 20. Sweat drips into your eyes, burns your cuts. Someone falls. He's dragged away groaning. You don't look back. You can't afford the distraction. A joke floats up from the rear. If Rome's enemies saw this, they'd laugh themselves to death. Another voice replies, "Better than dying by lions." The sun climbs higher. The yard becomes a furnace. The smell of blood, old and new, mingles with sweat and rust. Your limbs feel like iron poles wrapped in skin. But you keep going. Because the alternative is worse. Later, you're given a brief break. You collapse under the same tree as yesterday. Its shade is thin, barely enough for one man, but you don't move. Around you, others pant, sip water from cracked gourds, and mutter about their opponents. You overhear talk of tomorrow's practice matches. A name catches your attention: Thraex. Not a man, an archetype. A kind of gladiator. Curved blade. Round shield. Fast. Dangerous. Someone says he's in your weight class. You don't say anything, but your fingers tighten around the sword handle resting beside you. A trainer walks past and tosses a rag toward your feet. "Wrap your leg," he says without looking. You glance down. Blood. You hadn't noticed the gash. Too shallow to remember, too deep to ignore. You tie the rag. It sticks. You lean your head back against the tree, eyes closing. You imagine just for a second that you're anywhere else. Anywhere with silence. Anywhere without bells and shouting and the smell of iron. But then a horn blows, and you remember. You're still here. Section 3. You're barely on your feet before the doctor is barking again, voice like a hammer striking your spine. The midday drills begin with sword forms, strikes, guard stances, all of it repeated over and over until your muscles ache from the memory more than the movement. Today, though, there's a difference. A small one. But you feel it. He's watching you. Not the doctor. Him. The lanista. Arms folded, face unreadable. Standing in the shade where his sandals don't touch the dirt you bleed into. You keep your eyes forward and your gladius steady. Thrust, recover. Thrust, recover. Parry left. Cut low. But your rhythm falters. You flinch when your partner overcommits. It's not fear. It's instinct. A leftover scrap of the person you used to be. The lanista sees it. You know he does. And worse, you know it matters. When the round ends, he steps forward. He doesn't yell. That's the doctore's job. No, the lanista speaks like a merchant inspecting spoiled figs. You flinched. It isn't a question. You nod once, slow and ashamed. He snorts. A flinching man dies before the wound reaches him. Then he walks away. You return to the line. Everyone heard. No one says anything. But you feel it, the shift. The boy with the cough suddenly thinks he might last longer than you. Training resumes. This time you're paired with Felinus. His knuckles are bandaged, his lips split open, but his grin is wide and sly. "Don't flinch, Caprarius," he whispers, blade raised. You grin back, thin and tired. Don't miss, Felinus. The clash of wood echoes in the yard like applause for a cruel play. Dust rises with every lunge. You sidestep a high strike, slam your blade into his side. He grunts, spins, swings for your leg. You hop back. He overreaches. You tap his back with the flat of your sword. The doctor shouts something approving. You catch your breath. You didn't flinch. One of the other recruits, a Thracian named Geta, isn't as lucky. He trips during a drill. The doctor is on him before he can rise, beating him with a staff, screaming Latin obscenities that don't need translation. Geta curls into himself. The others look away. You keep your eyes fixed ahead, not because you're brave, but because that's what survivors do. There's a phrase etched into the wooden beams above the gate. Aut vincere, aut mori. Conquer or die. It's not just a motto. It's a prophecy. You finally get a water break. There's a trough near the south wall where the shadows collect. You bend low scoop water into your mouth. It tastes like rust and regret, but it's wet. That's enough. A whisper travels down the line. Did you hear about Silanus? You perk up. Silanus was a top fighter. 4 wins, 2 kills. Rumors said he'd earned his freedom within the year. What happened? Dead. Training match. Heart gave out. You frown. Heart gave out. Philinus leans over. Or maybe the Lanista found him planning a run. Historians still debate how often gladiators actually tried to escape and how many were just made into examples. Some scrolls claim they were treated with a mix of cruelty and honor. Others suggest honor was a mask worn by men who sold death for applause. Either way, Silanus won't be needing his sandals anymore. Later in the day, the practice shifts again. This time, team formations, paired drills. You're grouped with a Moor named Hasdrubal and a German named Wolf. You're the smallest, the fastest. You hate that. It means you go first. On me, the doctore growls. Line up, defend the standard. A wooden post is raised in the sand, painted like a Roman eagle. The crowd, imaginary for now, is meant to think it's a real standard. Your job is to keep it upright. Their job, your friends, is to make sure you don't get killed doing it. The charge comes. It's not pretend. Wolf shoulder barges the first attacker, sends him spinning. Hasdrubal hooks another man's ankle. You catch a blow on your shield and drive your blade into his gut blunt, thank the gods. But he yelps anyway. It's chaos. And it's glorious. You remember briefly that somewhere deep down you once wanted to be a soldier. Or maybe a hero. But in this sand, soaked with sweat and memory, even those dreams feel foolish. You win the drill, but the standard falls. Again the doctor snarls. You do it again. Then again. You stop counting. Your body moves on instinct, your thoughts slow to a crawl. At one point someone throws sand in your face. You react too slowly. A wooden gladius thuds into your side. You drop. The world tilts. You can't breathe. For a moment you think this is it. But then the pain blooms, bright and sharp, which means you're still alive. A medic yanks you up, slaps something wet and foul-smelling against your ribs. You'll bruise, not break, he says. Lucky. You don't feel lucky. You feel broken in places too deep for salves. That evening before sunset, you're told to scrub the weapons. Not yours. Those belong to the school. Real ones. The kind used in the arena. They're stored in a dark room with iron racks and oil-slicked stones. You run a cloth along a curved blade and notice a notch near the hilt. Old blood rusted brown. It's been cleaned, yes, but not forgotten. You stare at it too long. Don't get sentimental, says a voice behind you. It's Vero. He leans on the doorframe. That one belonged to Gaius. He didn't flinch either. You look up. And Vero shrugs. And now it's yours. You don't ask what happened to Gaius. You just keep cleaning. Because the blade doesn't care. The blade just waits. Section 4. The scent of oil and iron still clings to your fingers as you walk back to the sleeping quarters. It's not even night yet, but your body feels hollow, like someone scooped out your bones and replaced them with ash. Every joint creaks. Your knees ache from lunges. Your knuckles are raw from gripping a sword that refuses to become familiar. but the worst is yet to come. Wooden blades, the doctoress says as you pass him near the yard. Sparring rotation in 30 minutes. You blink your thoughts molasses thick. Didn't you just spar? He sees your hesitation. This is real training now, with new eyes watching. You nod. You don't ask who. Doesn't matter. When they say new eyes, it's never good news. Inside the armory, you take the same blunted gladius you used this morning. Your fingers curl around the handle like they're greeting an old enemy. You glance to your right. Felinus again. He smirks. Try not to flinch this time. You grin. Only if you aim better. The others trickle in, forming a circle around the dirt ring. It's not a proper arena, just a makeshift pit drawn with chalk and sweat. The fights aren't for show, not yet, but they are for judgment. You're not just learning here. You're being measured. They call your name. Not Caprarius, not the one they gave you. Your real name. You freeze. The sound of it ripples through your skull like a forgotten melody. Who said it? You scan the shadows and see him. A man in a fine tunic, arms crossed. No weapons, no armor, just eyes sharp calculating. He's not from here. He's from Rome, a scout perhaps, or worse, a bookkeeper with a taste for blood. Your opponent steps forward, a Numidian, fast, younger, lighter. You've seen him train, and you know he prefers low strikes. His blade arcs from the ground like a scorpion's tail. The doctor drops his hand. The fight begins. At first, it's footwork, circling, testing. You jab high, he dodges. He lunges low, you block. The wooden swords clap like snapped branches. You both grunt sweat already blooming on your brows. Then he fakes left, spins right, and slaps your side. The pain bites more insult than injury. You stagger, but recover. You swing back this time harder, and you catch him, right on the shoulder. He hisses. Not in pain and surprise. Good. The others cheer quietly. The kind of cheer that doesn't sound like hope, more like boredom momentarily cured. You win, but not by much. When the doctor calls an end, you're both breathing heavy, bleeding slightly from scraped skin, and locked in a silent agreement next time we go harder. The man in the fine tunic walks away without a word. You're not sure what that means. Back near the walls, you collapse onto the stone steps, letting the coolness seep into your skin. The sun is beginning to fall. Shadows stretch like long fingers across the yard. Felinus drops beside you with a groan. You looked alive out there, he mutters. Almost like you wanted to win. You shrug. I didn't want to lose. Same thing. He rubs his jaw. That scout from Rome, he's picking favorites. You can tell. They like a story. Former farmer or soldier's son, anyone who can bleed and smile at the same time. You wipe sweat from your neck. You think that's me? Felinus chuckles. Not sure yet. Depends how you die. You don't answer, because he's right. Inside the ludus, the halls echo with grunts and coughing. Cassius the coughing kid sits in the corner, head between his knees. You hear someone whisper that he fainted during drills. Again. The lanista has started placing bets on whether he'll survive the week. You pass by Varro, who's sharpening a wooden blade for no reason other than habit. Thraex is watching, he mutters without looking up. You pause. The Thraex fighter, he nods. 2 wins, 1 kill. They say he used to be a noble. You raise an eyebrow. A noble in the arena lost everything. Wife lands coin, volunteered for glory, or death. Same thing. Varro's lips twitch. He fights tomorrow. Against someone new. You don't ask who, you already know. Dinner is served late. A thin stew spiced with something bitter. A half loaf of coarse bread. You chew slowly, letting the warmth trick your stomach into thinking it's full. Across the table, Wolf rips his bread in half and tosses a piece to Cassius. The boy nods grateful but silent. Even the weak know when to be quiet. You glance around. Every man in this room has a story. Most of them won't get told. Somewhere far off, a bell rings, not the iron clang of the morning, but a softer chime. Temple bells. A reminder that Rome still worships something. Just not you. You wash your face with water that smells faintly of copper. Someone says there's blood in the well. No one checks. Historians still debate how much rest gladiators received. Some records suggest regular sleep and decent bedding. Others point to chronic exhaustion as a way to keep them manageable, too tired to escape, too numb to rebel. You lie down on your mat. It's thinner than your patience. The straw pokes your spine and you shift until it stops hurting or until you're too tired to care. Above you, the wooden beams groan. The moon slips through a narrow slit in the ceiling, casting a pale stripe across the floor. You follow it with your eyes until it fades into shadow. You almost fall asleep. But then you hear something. A whisper. A name. Your name. You sit up, heartbeat rising. A figure leans near the doorway, motioning you closer. You recognize him, not a fighter. One of the arena handlers. He nods once. Tomorrow, he says, voice low. You're in. You nod, not because you're ready, but because you've run out of choices. Section 5. The sun hasn't risen yet, but you're already awake. Not because of the usual clang of metal or barked orders. You just didn't sleep. You lay on your back most of the night, eyes fixed on the wooden beams above, watching the flickering shadows from a dying torch by the hallway. Every sound, a cough, a snore, the shuffle of a restless foot felt sharper, louder, like the whole building was holding its breath, like it knew. Today is different. Today you fight. You rise before the bell, careful not to wake the others. Not that they'd care. Most of them are pretending to sleep anyway, silently counting the minutes like you are. You pull your tunic over your head, wincing as it brushes your sore ribs. Every muscle feels like it's been struck with a mallet. But you've learned by now, if you wait for your body to feel good, you'll never stand up. You head toward the training yard. The sky is still dark, a deep blue haze just beginning to show over the walls. The air smells like dew and burnt oil. A few early guards loiter near the entrance, passing a wineskin back and forth. One of them sees you and smirks. Bright and early champ, he says like he knows something you don't. You say nothing. In the yard, the weapons are already laid out. Blunted swords for warm-ups. Real steel locked in crates. You walk to the center and begin your form strike parry sidestep pivot. The blade moves like it's part of you. At least it does when no one's trying to kill you. After a while, you hear footsteps behind you. Heavy, deliberate. You turn. It's him. Thraex. He's taller than you remember. Not by much, but enough to feel it. His armor is already half on. Curved sword at his hip. Thick arm guard covering his right forearm, gleaming faintly in the early light. He has a thin scar across his lip and eyes like stone. The kind that look through you, not at you. He doesn't speak, just nods once like he's checking inventory. You the morning opponent. You the warm-up. He moves past you without another glance, as if you don't matter yet. And maybe you don't. You return to your forms. This time, slower, more deliberate. But the rhythm is gone. That small seed of fear has lodged somewhere near your stomach. It pulses quietly, steadily. Breakfast is served, but you barely touch it. Barley mash again seasoned with indifference. Cassius eats with trembling hands, looking thinner than ever. He doesn't ask about your match. He just whispers, "Don't let them cheer when you fall." You don't reply, because you've heard the cheers. And they're louder for death than victory. Soon after, you're taken to the armory by two handlers. The good stuff is laid out now. Real armor, real weapons. One of them hands you a gladius. It's heavier than you expect. You adjust your grip. It's been sharpened recently. That's either a kindness or a promise. They help you with your gear. Not because they care, but because the arena doesn't like sloppy blood. Your helmet smells like the last man who wore it. Sweat fears something faintly metallic, probably the smell of regret. In the mirror, just a scrap of polished bronze, you see yourself leather straps crossing your chest bracers tight on your wrists. The short sword hanging from your hip. You look like a warrior. You feel like a prisoner dressed for execution. Valenus passes you on his way out. "You got this," he mutters, offering a crooked grin. "Or you don't. Either way, it'll be loud." You almost smile. The march to the holding cells begins next. A short walk, but it feels longer when your own footsteps echo louder than your heartbeat. You're placed in a cage just beneath the arena itself. It's dark, cold. The only light comes through the grated ceiling above, where slivers of sunlight begin to trickle down through sand-covered grates. You can hear the crowd already, muffled, murmuring, impatient. Above you, the world is a bowl of sound and heat and eyes, and soon it will swallow you. A horn blasts once deep and slow. The first fight has begun. You don't see it, but you hear it. The pounding of feet, the clash of metal, the roar of people who haven't worked a real job in their lives but scream like gods deciding fates. Then silence, then cheers, then another horn, and now it's your turn. The gate creaks open, a metal groan that sounds far too much like a beast yawning before a meal. A handler gestures. Go. You step forward. The first thing that hits you is the light. Blinding. White hot. The sun overhead turns the sand into a sheet of fire. You blink, squint, and then the second thing hits you. The sound. 50,000 Romans. Laughing, booing, shouting, chanting. You walk slowly toward the center, your feet sinking into the warm grit with every step. Your sword hangs heavy. Your shield feels like an anchor. Across the arena, Thraex enters. He walks like someone who's done this too many times to care. The crowd recognizes him. They cheer. He raises his sword once, not for them, but for show. You notice the detail on his armor-engraved plate's painted crest. He's more than just a fighter. He's a brand. You wonder if that's what you'll become, assuming you survive long enough to earn it. A doctor stands between you, raising a hand. Caprarius versus Thraex, he announces loud enough for the gods to hear. Fight. Then he steps back, and the world goes silent. You don't move, neither does he. It's a dance, and someone has to lead. He charges first. You raise your shield. The first strike rattles your bones. Section 6. Your arm snaps back from the force of the blow. The rim of your shield digs into your ribs, jarring you off balance. You stumble, sand sliding underfoot, and Thraex presses forward, not with anger. No, this isn't personal, but with precision. His strikes come fast and low, the curve of his blade glinting as it arcs up toward your side. You pivot just in time, raising your gladius to deflect the next slash. The blades screech against each other for a fraction of a second, then separate with a harsh ring. You feel it more than you hear it, like heat rushing under your skin. He smirks. He knows he's faster. The crowd roars with every movement, every dodge, every clash. It's a living beast reacting to the smallest gestures with applause or jeers. You try not to hear it, but it seeps in anyway. The noise is thick, like breathing through wet cloth. Thraex circles to your left. You mirror him. He lunges. You deflect, but he drops low, lower than you expect, and sweeps your leg. You go down. The crowd loves that. You taste dirt, blood. Not yours, not yet. Your shoulder hits first, then your hip, and for a second you're blind with pain. But training kicks in. You roll, push off the ground. Get your shield between you and the next strike. It comes. Fast, brutal. You block barely. Your shield arm is numb now. The wooden frame shudders with every hit, each one a promise I can end this when I want. Thraex backs off for a breath. You stand. He gives you a nod. Not respect. Permission. Then it's your turn. You lunge. It's not elegant. It's not theatrical. It's desperate. Your blade slashes wide. He blocks with the flat of his own. You twist your wrist. Redirect feint high, then thrust low toward his thigh. Contact. He grunts. It's shallow. You didn't penetrate the leather, but it's blood. And the crowd howls. He steps back, reassessing. Now you smirk. You circle. He does the same. Two animals gauging when to leap again. Historians still debate how choreographed these fights were. Some say the Lanistae staged every moment like a play. Others claim the blood was always real, just not always fatal. You're not sure what you believe anymore. All you know is that no script ever includes how heavy a sword feels after 10 minutes of swinging it. The sun climbs, sweat blurs your vision. Your feet ache from gripping shifting sand. Your breath comes shallow and sharp. He feints again. You fall for it. The blade slices your arm. Not deep, but enough. You hiss, jerking back. Warm blood slides down your elbow. The sting wakes you up. You press forward again, slamming your shield into his chest, driving him back. He staggers just a step, and you hammer your blade down onto his shoulder. The impact is solid. He grabs your tunic, pulls you in close, and headbutts you. Your world explodes in white. You stumble back, vision-smeared nose leaking. You're not sure if it's blood or tears. Maybe both. He doesn't press the advantage, not right away. Instead, he waits. The crowd begins to chant. Not your name, his. Thraex, Thraex, Thraex. It echoes like thunder. But beneath the noise, something else, something strange. You see a figure standing at the edge of the arena. Not a guard. Not a noble. A woman. She's cloaked face, mostly hidden, but she's watching you. Just you. A memory flares brief sharp. A sister. No, a lover. You blink. She's gone. You shake it off. Thraex moves again, this time with fury. He swings for your neck. You duck, drop, slash upward. You connect. His blade flies from his hand. The crowd gasps. It lands in the sand several feet away. You both freeze. He looks at his empty hand. You look at his chest exposed. You raise your gladius. But he lifts his palm. Open. Waiting. The entire arena holds its breath. You could kill him. The crowd would go wild. You could spare him. They might boo. Or cheer. You don't know. You don't care. You lower the blade. The doctor shouts something, but it's drowned out by the sound rising around you. Half the crowd cheers, half boos. Thraex picks up his sword slowly, eyes never leaving yours. Then he bows, not deep, but unmistakable. You nod. Not because you're proud, because you're still breathing. The fight is over. The arena gate opens again. You walk toward it, legs trembling. Each step feels heavier than the last. You don't turn back to see if Thraex follows. Because even though you survived the fight, you know, this was just the beginning. Section 7. They don't let you walk far. The moment you pass through the archway and back into the tunnel beneath the arena, handlers grab your arms, not roughly, but firmly, like you might collapse if they don't. And maybe they're right. Your legs feel like boiled rope. Your fingers won't release the sword. One of them has to pry it loose. You don't resist. You can't. The light fades behind you, replaced by cool shadows and the soft drip of condensation from the stone ceiling. The noise from the crowd becomes muffled, like thunder heard from deep underwater. But even through the haze, you hear it clearly. Your name, Caprarius. Not shouted in victory, just spoken, by someone standing nearby. You blink through the sweat stinging your eyes. It's the man in the fine tunic again. Not clapping, not smiling, just watching. He nods once, scribbles something on a wax tablet, then vanishes into a side corridor like a phantom. You want to follow him. Ask who he is. Ask why your name was on his lips like a brand. But instead, you're led down another hallway deeper this time. You pass a room filled with caged animals. The stench is immediate dung meat fear. Lions, bears. Once someone claimed they even had crocodiles imported from Egypt. You don't look long, because they're next. And today's show isn't over. You're taken to the infirmary. It's a stretch of stone slabs lined against the wall, each one occupied by a man who fought before you. Some are groaning. Some are silent. One is missing an eye. Another is wrapped from chest to waist, blood seeping through the linen like a map. You're placed on a slab at the end. A medic begins cleaning your wound without warning. Cold wine stings the cut on your arm. You hiss. Means it's clean, he mutters. He dabs a poultice onto the gash and wraps it tight. Then he gives you something wrapped in cloth bread, maybe. Or meat. You don't look before you eat it. Your body takes over. The medic nods toward a basin. Clean up before you go. You're lucky. Not everyone leaves that sand walking. You rise slowly. There's no mirror in the room, just the water's reflection. You look like someone else. Gaunt, pale, but alive. Somewhere above the crowd roars again. Another fight has begun. You wonder if it's Thraex, or someone else standing where you stood, breathing shallow breaths into dry air, tasting the metallic sting of panic. You splash water onto your face, watching the ripples erase your reflection again and again. Then you dry your hands and step back into the corridor. On your way to the barracks, you pass a group of guards dragging a body covered with a blood-soaked cloth. One foot slips out from underneath the sheet, bare, bruised with a faded tattoo on the ankle. Felinus. Your heart kicks. But no too small. Too clean. Just another fighter. Still, it jolts you. You make it to the barracks just before the next bell. The others are gathered around Varro, who's telling some story from the last games, embellishing everything for dramatic flair. The men listen. Some laugh. But when they see you, they pause. Not long. Just long enough to register that you're back. That you walked out alive. Varro grins. Well, look who returns. The flincher survives. You smirk. Guess I'll have to try harder next time. Don't worry, he says. You will. You sit. Not with pride. Not with swagger. Just relief. Your body slumps against the cool stone behind you. Someone slides a flask your way. Watered wine. You drink. It burns a little. It's good. Cassius sits beside you, eyes wide. They said you stood your ground. You nod. They said Thraex bowed. You shrug. He lowers his voice. You think they'll let you go soon? You laugh. Quietly. No. Historians still debate whether gladiators who won multiple bouts truly had better chances of freedom. Some records show a handful of names men who earned wooden swords the rudies and walked out of the Colosseum as free men. But for most, there's always another match, always another crowd to please. Night falls with the slow grace of a dying candle. The barracks dim. Some men snore, others whisper. You lie on your mat, eyes open. You replay every moment of the fight. The swing, the shield, the moment his blade flew. You feel the bruise forming under your ribs. You shift and wince. Then, from across the room, Thraex appears. He's not limping. He's not smiling either. He nods once as he walks by. It's not friendship. It's something else. Recognition. You nod back, then lie flat again. Somewhere in the city, people are still drinking, still toasting, still telling tales about the brave warriors who fought for their amusement. They'll forget your name by morning, but you'll remember theirs. Because their laughter still echoes in your bones, and tomorrow, the training begins again. Section 8. You wake up to the sound of chains, not the sharp clang of weapons, not the barking of trainers, but the dull, dragging scrape of iron links being pulled across stone. It's still dark. The sky outside the barracks slats is a deep violet, streaked with the last of the stars. You rise slowly. Your ribs are sore. Your legs feel heavy, but you move anyway. That's what survival looks like here, obedience dressed as strength. Outside in the corridor, you see two men being led by guards. Their hands are bound, feet chained. New arrivals. One of them is bleeding from the lip. The other has eyes wide with confusion. The way they walk says they still think this might be a mistake, that someone will shout wait and send them back home. You almost envy them. That hope won't last long. You grab your tunic and gear and head to the yard. The doctor is already waiting. He wears the same expression every morning, impatient disappointment. His eyes sweep over the line of men gathering before him. Then they settle on you, Caprarius, he says. With me. No explanation. No questions. You follow. He leads you to a smaller section of the yard. Enclosed, private. It's where elite fighters train, or where they prepare you for something worse. Standing inside is another man, tall, wrapped in dark robes, with a scroll in one hand and a ring on every finger. Not Roman, not entirely. Maybe Eastern, maybe moneyed. He glances up. "This one?" he asks, voice soft like silk cut with sand. The dottore nods. The man studies you, walks a slow circle around you like he's inspecting livestock. He stops at your side, lifts your arm, roughly turns your wrist. You don't resist. "Survived Thraex," he murmurs. "Didn't finish him." "Interesting." He looks at the dottore. "He's not for the beasts, then." "Not yet." The man nods and turns away. "I'll return. You don't ask who he is. You don't want to know." The dottore turns to you. "You've been marked." You raise an eyebrow. For what he smirks. "To live longer." Then he walks away. You return to drills, same exercises, same heat, same ache. But now every eye lingers on you just a little longer. They've all heard, they all know. And it changes things. You're paired today with Hasdrubal. He's strong, silent, always focused. You've trained with him before. You trust him not to kill you by accident. Today he tests you harder. Each blow lands closer. Each parry rattles deeper. You meet him strike for strike until your muscles scream and your vision blurs. But you hold the line. After the drill ends, he nods once. Approval. Or acknowledgement. It feels better than the crowd's cheer. You drink from the trough head, pounding throat dry. Somewhere near the wall you hear a laugh, sharp mocking. "Wolf." He leans against a post, arms crossed. "Don't get comfortable," he says. "They don't mark you for nothing. Means you're on a list, a short one. You wipe your mouth, list for what he grins. The exotic matches. You've heard the rumors. Fights staged for foreign guests. Battles with themes, scripts, schedules. Sand dyed different colors. Flames in the arena. Sometimes even boats. One account said they once flooded the Colosseum to recreate a naval battle. Historians still debate if that's true or just Roman exaggeration. You hope it's an exaggeration. Because the only thing worse than dying in the sand is dying as part of a show. Lunch comes late. Salt fish and olives. Better than usual. A sure sign that someone with gold is watching. You sit beside Vero, who's cleaning his blade like it's a family heirloom. He eyes your plate. Fancy. You grunt, not hungry. Then you're not smart. He eats in silence for a moment, then says, "I heard about the scout. The one in black." You nod. Vero chews, swallows. He buys fighters, trains them for export. You survive long enough, you end up in Carthage or Antioch. You fight for kings instead of crowds. You frown. "Is that better?" He shrugs. "They say the pay is real." You finish your meal in silence, wondering if the price of being valuable is just another way to stay enslaved. The rest of the day passes in a blur of drills and sweat. You're pushed harder now, no more flinching, no more hesitation. You're being shaped, not into a man, into a product. That evening, before lights out, you return to the far wall of the yard. There's a spot you found hidden behind a broken column where the moonlight hits just right, where the noise of the barracks fades. You sit, and you listen. Somewhere faintly you hear a flute. Not close, not part of the arena. Someone playing maybe in a nearby home. A Roman child learning music. A slave entertaining guests. But the sound is soft, pure, uninterested in blood or noise or showmanship. You close your eyes and let it fill the cracks. You remember a time before this, a road, a hill, a woman's voice calling your name, the real one. You don't cry. But your throat tightens, and then the music fades, and the bell rings. You stand, again, because you have to. 9. Not the sharp clash of swords, not the bark of a doctor, but a slower, heavier sound. Iron links scraping across stone, dragging like the end of something. The barracks is still dark. Outside the window slats, the sky hovers in that quiet place between night and morning, soaked in the last of the stars. You sit up. Across the room, a few heads stir beneath their thin blankets. A cough. A groan. But no one rises yet. No one wants to move until they must. Then 3 knocks. Not loud, not angry, just deliberate. "Caprarius," a voice calls. Now, your name cuts through the silence like a thrown stone across still water. Slowly you stand. Slowly you move. At the threshold, a guard gestures. He doesn't explain. They never do. You follow. Through the cold hallway, past the familiar cracks in the stone, past the torch that always burns too low, you're taken deeper, farther than usual. Past the sparring yard, past the infirmary, to a corridor you haven't walked before. Here the air smells like wax and paper, not sweat and rust. The walls are lined with statues. Men carved in victory arms, raised blades aloft, eyes fixed in eternal confidence. You wonder how many of them died just hours after their likeness was carved. At the end of the hall, beneath a slanted beam of light, waits the cloaked man. You've seen him before. Rings on his fingers, scroll in hand, eyes like frost. Beside him stands a Roman official, young and pale and clearly impatient. They murmur to one another, not acknowledging you until you stop 3 paces away. Then the cloaked man turns. "You'll fight again today," he says. "Not in the arena." You wait. He continues. "A senator's son has requested a match. He wants to see real combat. Up close." You don't answer. You're not being asked. You're being told. They lead you to a long room of stone and silence, a training chamber freshly scrubbed. Torches line the walls. In one corner, a raised platform has been built simple, but with fine cloth draped across the railing. A boy sits there, 17 perhaps, draped in a toga too rich for someone so young. He swings his feet, smiles faintly. 2 older men stand behind him like shadows. He waves as you enter. You say nothing. Your opponent enters from the other side. Philinus. He lifts his chin, gives you a half nod. "Try not to break anything important," he whispers. You step into the center. Raise your blade. Feel its weight settle into your bones like a cold truth. The doctore stands between you. Begin. There's no crowd, no trumpets, just the sound of feet shifting on stone. You strike first. Philinus parries. Quick, sharp. His grin fades. He didn't expect you to come in so fast. You step left, swing for his ribs. He ducks, spins. Your blades scrape. The boy claps once. It echoes. You fight harder. Not for him, not even for survival. You fight because it's all you know now. Movement, balance, pressure. The quiet thrill of still standing when you shouldn't. Eventually, Philinus stumbles. Your sword taps his shoulder. The boy stands. "Enough," he says. And like that, it's over. He leaves without a word of thanks. You help Philinus up. He groans, clutching his side. "Should have played dead," he mutters. You both chuckle, low and tired. Back in the barracks, no one says anything, but they watch you now. You lie down, just for a moment, and then the door opens again. "Caprarius." You sit up, again. This time, the guard takes you outside the ludus, not far, just into a small courtyard behind the barracks. The air smells of figs and distant ash. A woman waits beneath the tree, the same one you saw during your match. She doesn't speak right away. When she does, her voice is low, measured. You fight with control. You remain still. She steps forward, reaches into her sleeve, hands you a pendant, bronze, shaped like a coiled serpent around a sword. When the time comes, she says, "Show this to the right person." Then she's gone. You stand alone beneath the fig tree, holding something that feels heavier than it looks. You don't know what it means. But for the first time since you were dragged into this world, you feel something stir deep inside, not survival, not obedience, hope. Section 10. The morning drills feel different now, not because the sun is any cooler or the sand any softer, but because every glance, every gesture lingers on you a second longer than it did before. They've seen something, or they think they have. You line up with the others just as always. You grip the same worn gladius. You strap on the same stiff leather greaves. But now, when you move, there's a rhythm in your bones like you've finally learned the music of this place. Or maybe you're just too tired to think about fear anymore. The doctor barks orders. You move. The blows come. You block. He shouts. You adjust. It all happens without thought now, like breathing in a storm. You spar with Hasdrubal again. His face stoic as ever gives nothing away. He doesn't speak, just nods before raising his shield. He comes at you hard. You meet him step for step. The others stop to watch. You hear their murmurs behind you. Marked by the scout. Fought Thraex and lived. Given a token. They don't say it to you, but they're saying it about you. You go to lunch afterward, sliding onto a bench near the back. Cassius joins you looking smaller than he did a week ago. The cough hasn't gone away. He chews his bread slowly. Do you think they'll let you out? You glance at him. Out he nods. The pendant. That woman. She was dressed like someone who walks freely, not like us. You consider the token again, still wrapped in cloth tucked beneath your sleeping mat. It's real. Heavy. Meant for something. I don't know, you say. Cassius wipes his mouth. If you do get out, take me with you. He says it like a joke, but you don't laugh. The afternoon passes with fewer drills and more observation. The lanista walks the line with a scribe beside him reading names, numbers, match histories. When he reaches you, he pauses. Caprarius, he says. Rank subpar, reputation rising. The scribe writes it down. The lanista snorts. Survive another match, and you might even be worth insuring. Then he moves on. The rest of the day blurs together: blade practice, shield wall drills, breathing exercises. You're not sure who thought teaching men to breathe in rhythm was important, but it is. Panic shortens the breath. Panic makes the hand shake, and a shaking hand doesn't block anything. By evening, you're back at the trough with the others. The water is warm from the sun, metallic and bitter, but it clears the dust from your throat. Varro stands nearby, watching the sky turn purple. Did you know he says that some gladiators volunteered? You raise an eyebrow. Who would do that? He shrugs. Fame, money, revenge, pride. You shake your head. He smiles. Not you, not me. He leans against the post, arms crossed. Maybe not then, but maybe now. You look up. The moon is rising, thin and pale. The same one you saw the night you arrived. The same one hanging over the Colosseum. The same one watched by every man who's ever wondered whether tomorrow is worth reaching. Later that night, after the barracks has gone quiet, you lie awake. You unwrap the pendant again. Hold it to the light. You turn it in your fingers, feel the grooves. The serpent's eye catches a flicker of the torch outside your door. You think of the woman's words. When the time comes, but how will you know? You close your fingers around it, press it to your chest and exhale. You're still here, and somehow that still feels like victory. Just before sleep takes you, a strange thought passes through your mind. Maybe the arena didn't make you stronger. Maybe it just revealed that you already were. You don't know what tomorrow brings, but you'll wake up for it, and you'll stand. Again. Section 11. You wake before the bell again. It's becoming a habit now, your body stirring before the clang of iron, before the bark of a trainer, before the sand warms beneath the rising sun. The silence is strange, clean, like a breath taken too deep. You sit up slowly, the mat crackling beneath you. Around you, the barracks breathes in rhythms, snores, coughs, restless feet twitching in dreams. But no one else rises. Not yet. You step outside into the narrow yard between the stone wall and the sleeping quarters. The sky is still gray, the moon fading into the blur of morning. You stretch bones, popping shoulders tight. Your side still throbs from yesterday's drills, but the ache feels distant now. Familiar. A soft breeze carries in the scent of olive trees, distant smoke, maybe from a baker's fire, maybe from a funeral pyre. You stand there a moment alone in the hush, until you hear footsteps. Wolf. He emerges from the shadows near the well, arms crossed, already dressed for training. Didn't think you were the kind to watch sunrises, he mutters. You glance over. Didn't think you were the kind to sneak around without a blade. He grins. Sometimes it's sharper not to carry one. You nod once. The two of you stand there in silence, not as enemies, not exactly as friends. Just two men caught in the same trap, waking to the same dream. Eventually, the bell rings. The yard fills. You fall into line, take your place. The drills are announced, double rounds today. No rest between matches. A test of endurance. The doctor walks down the row, his staff tapping the ground in steady rhythm. His eyes scan every face. He stops when he reaches you, then steps aside. You know what that means. A real weapon today, not a practice blade. You're being prepared for something. The first match is a blur. You fight against Hasdrubal again, both of you covered in sweat within minutes. Blades flash, shields slam your boot slips on the sand. But you recover. His strike grazes your shoulder. Yours lands square against his chest. He nods after. Respect. The second match is harder. A new recruit, younger, faster, reckless. He fights like someone who doesn't know death is real yet. You teach him slowly, not out of cruelty, but because someone once taught you. You land a clean strike on his thigh and step back, letting him fall. The doctor calls the match. You kneel beside the recruit, whisper something only he can hear. Breathe. Stay low, always stay low. He nods, trembling. After the drills, the water trough is crowded. Men splash their faces, gulp down fistfuls, rub the grit from their eyes. You drink slowly. Let the heat slide off your shoulders. Then you're called again. Another match. No, not this time. This time, it's the Lanista himself waiting for you in the shade. He doesn't speak right away, just holds out a folded piece of parchment. You take it, unroll it. Inside is a list. Names, dates. Yours is at the top. 3 days, he says. Exhibition bout. Paired match. You look up. With whom? He shrugs. Not decided. But important eyes will be watching. Foreign ones. Your fingers tighten on the parchment. He leans closer. This is how it starts, Caprarius. They test you here. Then they sell you there. You study his face. There's no cruelty in it. Just math. He walks away. You return to your mat and sit. The paper still in your hand. You stare at your name. The curve of the letters. The ink already smudging with sweat. Cassius walks by and stops. That yours? You nod. He reads it upside down. They're putting you in the exhibition. You nod again. He swallows. I heard they dress you up for those. Paint your face. Oil your chest. Give you new sandals. You chuckle. Sounds like a wedding. Cassius doesn't laugh. Just don't let them make you forget who you are. You don't answer, because you're not sure you remember. That night you return to the fig tree in the back courtyard. No one is there. No woman in a cloak. No serpent pendant in your hand. Just you under the branches staring up at the same thin moon. You breathe, slow, quiet, and for a moment, just a moment, you imagine what it might feel like to leave this place, not in a box, but walking, head high, feet light, free. The breeze rustles the leaves above you like whispers from old gods. Then the wind dies, and silence returns. You walk back to the barracks, one step at a time. Section 12, 3 days. That's all the parchment said. 3 days until the exhibition match, until you're no longer just surviving in the dirt, but performing under the gaze of people who matter. Senators, generals, merchants with gold and time to waste. They say it's an honor. You've heard the word tossed around like bread in the crowd, but it doesn't feel like honor. It feels like something's closing in. The morning comes heavy with heat. You rise before the others, your body already aching with that strange anticipatory soreness that comes before a fight. The yard is quieter than usual. Men stretch in silence, blades flashing under the low sun, not in aggression, but in anxiety. They've all heard. Today begins the selection process, and every man here wants to be seen, because in the arena to be unseen is to be forgotten, or worse, ignored. Drills begin, and your body moves through them without thought. Thrust, step, block, pivot. Hasdrubal is your partner again. He doesn't speak, he just swings, absorbs, returns. You sweat, stumble, once recover. The doctor watches from the corner, arms crossed. When it ends, he doesn't say a word, but he gestures you aside. You're handed a new tunic, red, stitched with gold. Light, soft, not built for war, but for display. You hold it in your hands, then slowly pull it over your head. It fits too well, too deliberately. By midday, they call your name again. You and 6 others are brought into a side hall where the walls are lined with ornate shields and painted helmets, props for a play where dying looks beautiful. Vero stands near the door. Wolf sits against the wall, rolling his shoulders. Felinus arrives last, nursing a bruised wrist, giving you a look that says more than any speech ever could. A man in green robes steps onto a platform and reads your fate in a voice that sounds like it's been unspooled from some dusty scroll. You are chosen for the exhibition, he says. You represent the honor of this house. Someone near the back exhales sharply. No one laughs. The man continues listing the rules. No deaths, just display. A performance of combat, a dance of wounds without corpses. Unless, of course, the signal is given. Then all bets are off. No one asks what the signal is. Everyone already knows. You're sent back to your quarters not to rest, but to wait. Waiting is harder than bleeding. You unwrap the serpent pendant again, the metal cool in your palm. You turn it over slowly, studying the coiled design the way the serpent's eye gleams when the torchlight hits it just right. You don't know what it means yet, only that it means something. Evening falls. The stew is flavorless and the bread too hard, but you chew it all. You eat because it's what's expected, because strength here is the appearance of routine. Back in the barracks, you sit by yourself near the back wall, eyes scanning the room. Cassius is coughing again. Felinus lies flat, staring at the beams. No one speaks to you, but you know they know. You've been chosen, and that changes things. And then just before the lamps are doused, you hear your name. A whisper from the dark. You turn. She's there. No cloak this time. Just a shawl pulled low, face half lit by the flickering torch near the doorway. She moves fast, stepping close, slipping something into your hand, a folded parchment. Show this to the eastern gate, she says. Tomorrow night, after the exhibition. You want to ask who she is, why she's helping. But you don't. Because her eyes are steady and kind. And because deep down, some part of you already trusts her. She disappears as quickly as she came. You don't open the note. Not yet. You just hold it in your fist, pressing it into your chest as you lie back on the mat. The room settles into sleep. The flames grow low. And in the quiet, for the first time since you arrived, you close your eyes and dream not of sand or steel, or the roar of Roman crowds, but of a road under a wide sky, and a voice calling your name not to fight, but to return. Section 13. The day arrives like any other, but everything about it feels wrong. The sky is too blue, the breeze carries too many scents, roasting meat flowers, oiled leather, a holiday kind of smell. But you're not here to celebrate. You're here to be watched, judged, remembered, or forgotten. The handlers wake you early, even before the first bell. No words, just gestures. You dress in silence, the red and gold tunic slipping over your shoulders like a costume you didn't choose. They give you sandals with fresh leather soles, unworn, stiff. You hate the way they squeak when you move, like they're pretending you've never touched dirt before. You're led with the others into the holding room beneath the arena. It's quieter than usual. The walls are cleaner. Even the torches have been replaced, their flames taller, steadier, as if this is a temple now, not a tomb. The short man in green robes appears again. This time he's flanked by 2 Roman officials in polished armor. They don't smile. They don't speak. They just nod to the robed man who steps forward and unrolls a scroll. Pairs have been chosen, he says. You will fight in 3 matched duels. Each bout will end with a clear victor. The crowd will decide whether that victor leaves with praise or with red on their hands. He begins calling names. Not yours. Not yet. Varro is paired with Wolf. Felinus is called next. Then finally Caprarius. And Leiden. Leiden. You glance across the room. A tall man with short cropped hair and a thick scar along his cheek nods once. You've seen him before, always training in the quieter corners, always alone. His eyes meet yours and hold for just a moment. He doesn't smile. That's a good sign. The smiling ones tend to die quickly. You're brought to the staging corridor where slaves adjust your gear. They smear oil across your arms and chest, not for protection, but for shine. One of them dabs dark powder under your eyes. When you raise an eyebrow, she murmurs, "Makes your gaze sharper." You say nothing. You don't feel sharp. You feel hollow. You can hear the crowd now, louder with each passing minute. A pulse of sound rising like a storm rolling toward shore. Cheers. Drums. The clang of the arena gate being opened, then shut, then opened again. And always that chant, rhythmic, hypnotic. Not your name. Never your name. Just noise. A tide that drowns everything. The robed man returns with a final instruction. When the bell sounds, you step forward. Keep your movements wide. Make them see you. You nod, though the words fall like dust against stone. The bell tolls. You walk. Into sunlight. Into heat. Into the yawning mouth of the arena that's already tasted thousands before you. You squint against the brightness. The sand is a golden glare. The stands are full. Robes of every color. Gilded masks. Perfumed hair. Goblets raised in soft hands that have never known real hunger. And across the arena stands Leiden. His armor is silvered newer than yours. His blade longer. His stance cautious. Balanced. He knows what he's doing. A trumpet sounds. The crowd goes silent. A voice rises loud, theatrical. For the honor of the Republic, for the eyes of those who lead, for those who would rise from the dust, the trumpet calls again. And the match begins. You move first, circling, testing his step. He watches your feet, not your eyes. Smart. You swing low. He blocks, swings back. A clash. Wood and metal screaming. He presses hard. You yield ground. Only a step, then another. But it's all part of the rhythm. You pivot, swing from the side. He dodges. Barely. Your blade whistles past his ribs. The crowd exhales together. He lunges. You drop low, letting his blade scrape the edge of your shoulder. You grab the back of his knee as he passes and yank. He stumbles. Not down. Not yet. But he knows now this won't be a dance. This is a test, and both of you are here to pass it. You keep moving. Swing, block, duck. Sand kicks up. Sweat blinds. The sun feels closer now, as if Rome itself is leaning in to watch you fall. Then an opening. He overextends. You slam your shield into his chest and swing hard across his torso. It connects. The blade tears cloth, maybe skin. He stumbles, drops to a knee. The crowd roars. You raise your blade. Not to kill, just to end it. And then you wait. For the signal, thumbs, left or right, up or down. The robed man steps to the edge of the arena, waits for the crowd's answer. A breathless moment, then thumbs up. Mercy. Leiden lowers his blade. You lower yours. The match is done. But your heart is still racing, your hands still shaking, your feet still sunk in the sand. You turn and walk back toward the tunnel. Leiden follows slower. Behind you, the crowd has already moved on, cheering for the next pair, for the next spectacle, for the next blood. You reach the shadowed corridor and exhale long and low. A handler steps forward, removes your blade, takes your shield. Another hands you water. You drink deep, and as the coolness fills your chest, you remember the parchment, the woman's voice, the eastern gate. Tonight, you're not done yet. Section 14. The exhibition ends long after your match is forgotten. You wait beneath the arena while the final pair draws blood for the crowd. The noise above ebbs and flows like ocean tides, screams, cheers, a burst of trumpets. Then silence. Not the silence of reverence, just the hush of satisfaction. The day's appetites have been fed. The handlers open the lower gates. You and the other fighters are herded down the long corridor toward the ludus. No words, just movement. Everyone walks with the same shuffling gait, fatigue wrapped in discipline. You catch Leiden's eye once. He gives you a subtle nod. Not victory, not friendship, just recognition. Two men still breathing. Back inside the barracks is dim. The oil lamps flicker low. The air smells of sweat and poultices and metal. The others speak quietly. Wolf groans as he pulls off his chest strap. Vero nurses a bruise beneath his eye. Cassius lies motionless on his mat, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling beams. You sit in the corner, slowly peeling off your tunic. The red dye has darkened with sweat. The gold stitching is frayed. You fold it carefully and set it aside. You can't afford to ruin anything that makes you look more valuable than you feel. The scroll is still tucked beneath your sleeping mat. You reach for it, unwrap it with careful fingers. No words, just a small painted mark, 2 crossing lines beneath a crescent moon. The eastern gate. Tonight. You wait. You don't eat dinner. Don't lie down. Just sit with your back to the stone wall and your eyes on the door. When the bell tolls for lights out, no one speaks to you. No one asks where you'll be. They all pretend not to notice. That's the way of the barracks. When a man chooses a different road, whether to freedom or to death, he walks it alone. The torches dim. The barracks stills, and you rise, barefoot moving like a shadow. Down the corridor. Past the infirmary, past the empty courtyard where you once sat beneath the fig tree, past the training yard now deserted and silent sand raked smooth by tired hands. You reach the side passage where the outer wall presses close. A breeze flows through the cracked stones, cool, carrying the scent of olives and ash. The eastern gate is ahead. 2 guards stand there. One leans on a spear, the other picking at his fingernails with a dagger. You approach slowly, eyes lowered. They glance up, straightening. You stop 2 steps away and offer the parchment. One takes it, unfolds it beneath the torchlight. His brow furrows. Then his expression clears. He grunts, nods. Without a word, he steps aside and unlatches the gate. The metal creaks. The darkness beyond yawns like an open mouth. You step through. The gate shuts behind you, no alarm, no chase. No one shouts your name. You're outside the ludus, truly outside, for the first time in... How long the road is empty, narrow, the stones uneven beneath your feet. You walk slowly, unsure if your legs believe it yet. You pass shuttered stalls, stacked crates, the occasional flicker of candlelight through a cracked window. And then her. She's waiting in the shadows beneath an old archway cloak drawn over her head. She steps forward as you approach. Her voice is calm. Follow me. You do. Through winding alleys, across footbridges, past temples and walls painted with old war slogans. No one stops you. No one sees you. The city, it seems, is asleep. You reach a side gate along the city's edge. A cart waits there, hitched to a tired mule. 2 men stand beside it, rough coats, dark eyes. One holds a water skin, the other grips the reins. She turns to you. "This is where I leave you," she says. "They'll take you to the coast. After that, it's up to you." You don't know what to say. You want to ask her name, ask her why. But the words die in your throat. She steps closer, presses something into your palm. The serpent pendant. You blink. I already have no, she says. Keep it. You may need it again. Then she's gone, disappearing into the shadows with the same quiet grace she always carried. You climb into the cart. The driver grunts, flicks the reins, and the mule begins to move. Slowly you leave the city. The lights of Rome fade behind you. You don't look back. Because for the first time in too long, the road ahead of you doesn't end in sand. It begins in silence. And possibility. Section 15. The cart rattles along the worn Roman road wheels, groaning over every stone and rut. You sit in the back, hunched beneath a sack of grain, watching the shadows dance across the canvas above you. The mule moves slowly, steadily, as if it knows not to draw attention. The driver says nothing. Neither does his companion. Silence is the price of safety. The night air is cool, cooler than it ever felt inside the ludus. You let it touch your face, your arms, your skin still sticky with old sweat. It doesn't smell like blood here. It smells like earth, like dry grass and distant sea. The kind of smell that doesn't ask anything of you. The kind that feels like forgetting. You try to stay awake. You want to see every tree, every curve of the road, every moment that proves you're still free. But the exhaustion is too deep. Your eyes close, not sharply, not with fear. They fall shut like the end of a long sentence. You dream again. This time you're not in the arena. You're in a field, alone, barefoot. The grass is green, impossibly green. You turn slowly, arms out, face to the wind. There's no crowd, no shouting, just the sound of your breath steady and full. A woman stands in the distance, maybe the same one, maybe someone else. She says nothing, just raises a hand. And you wake. The sun is rising. Not over Rome, but over a stretch of hills dotted with olive groves and small villas in the distance. The driver nods once at you without turning. Another few hours, he says. You can ride or walk, your choice. You climb down. Your legs are stiff, your back sore, but the road feels good beneath your feet. Real, solid, no blood on it. You walk beside the cart in silence. Somewhere in the trees, birds call to one another. You've never really listened to them before. Not like this. Around midday, you reach a small fishing village tucked against the coast. The homes are pale sun-bleached, their roofs curved like the tops of amphorae. Children run barefoot along the paths. Women carry baskets of olives and fish. No one looks at you twice. That feels strange. You're used to being stared at, judged, feared. But here, you're invisible in the best way. The cart stops near a small dock where two boats sway with the tide. The second man speaks for the first time. That one's yours, he says, pointing to the smaller vessel. He'll take you across. You approach the boat. The man on board wears a simple tunic stained with salt. He studies your face, then your hands, the scars, the bruises, the silence. He nods. You're late. You don't ask how he knew you were coming. You just climb in. As the boat pushes off, the waves begin to rock gently. The village grows smaller behind you until it's just a speck against the land. The wind carries the scent of salt and cedar and a little something sweet you can't place. The sailor squints at the horizon. There's a place, he says, where they don't ask what you were. Only what you can still be. You look at him. You ever been there, you ask. He grins one side of his mouth. No. But I've taken men who have. The boat sails through the afternoon. You watch the coastline slide past small cliffs, patches of wild rosemary, the occasional shepherd's hut. And as the sun begins to dip again, the sailor points ahead. There, he says. That's your shore. It's not much. A strip of sand, a crooked path winding up into the trees. But it's yours. You disembark with nothing but the clothes on your back and the pendant in your palm. He watches you go, doesn't wave, just waits until you're past the tree line, then turns back toward the open sea. The path is quiet, cool underfoot. The trees are tall and thin, their leaves whispering secrets to the wind. You walk until your legs shake, and when you finally stop, you sit beneath an old cypress and breathe. Long, deep. You made it. You're free. But the truth creeps in slowly like nightfall. Freedom is not the end. It's just the start of a different kind of struggle, because now you must decide who you are when no one is watching, when no one is cheering, when there is no sand, no blood, no gate, just you and the road ahead. Section 16. You don't move for a long time. Just sit beneath that old cypress, back pressed against the bark, eyes on the changing light through the branches. The sun falls in quiet stages, each shadow stretching longer, gentler, as if the day itself is exhaling. For the first time, you feel the weight of your own stillness. No sword in your hand, no command to follow, no opponent waiting for your next breath. Just silence. Your stomach growls. It's a good reminder you're alive. You stand, stretch, and begin walking again. The path curves gently, leading you to a small clearing where the ruins of a stone wall peek through the brush. Someone once lived here, or passed through. You decide it's as good a place as any to rest for the night. You gather sticks, leaves, stones for a ring. You build a fire with hands that used to kill, and now only want warmth. The flames crackle softly. You watch them flicker. Every time the wind shifts, sparks dance into the night like insects lit from within. You don't know where you'll go tomorrow. No map, no plan. Just the vague direction the sailor pointed and the whisper of a promise from a woman who never gave you her name. You take the pendant from your pocket. Let it lie flat on your palm. The serpent's eyes catch the firelight. Coiled around the sword, it still looks alive, still waiting. You think of the arena, of Thraex, of Philinus, of Cassius and his cough, of Wolf and his grin. Are they still alive, still fighting? Do they remember you? Do they wonder what became of you? Or are you already a story they tell at night between matches in the hush that comes before another day of drills? You wrap the pendant again, tuck it inside your tunic. The night is colder now. Stars blink overhead, scattered across the sky like coins tossed by gods who lost interest in who they land near. You sleep, not deeply, but well. And when morning breaks, you walk again. The land changes. Hills become valleys. Olive trees give way to open fields and tiny vineyards. A farmer offers you bread in exchange for help repairing a fence. You work without complaint. Eat in silence. He asks no questions. You offer no lies. You move on. In a nearby village, a merchant offers to hire you as a caravan guard. You say yes. He gives you a blade, not a gladius, just a short, curved knife. Light, silent. You ride at the back of the column, watching the hills, watching the sky. The other guards joke talk of women and dice and wine. You smile once, maybe twice. You're not one of them, not yet. But you're not what you were either. One night a boy in the caravan asks about your scars. He points at the faded brand on your arm. You tell him it was a mistake, a debt paid in full. He believes you. He has no reason not to. He laughs and runs off. Later by the fire, you rub your thumb over that same scar. It feels different now, not like shame, more like memory. Weeks pass, then months. You cross rivers, mountains, cities that never knew the Colosseum, towns where no one calls you Caprarius, places where bread is offered without asking what you did to earn it. Eventually, you stop running, not because you feel safe, but because you feel steady. You take work building walls, chopping wood, fixing roofs before storms. Your hands grow rough again, not from holding blades, but from holding beams, ropes, tools. People begin to know your face. They greet you by name, the new name you chose, the one that isn't marked by blood. And one day in the market, a man walks past you wearing a Roman soldier's cloak. He doesn't recognize you. He barely looks. He keeps walking, and that's when it hits you. You've disappeared. Not as a ghost, but as a man who lived. Section 17. The seasons shift quietly around you. Summer dries the fields. Autumn brings wind and dust. Winter lowers its gray veil, and you learn to stack firewood high to stitch your own cloaks to wake before dawn just to see your breath in the air. You learn the rhythms of the land, when to plant, when to harvest, when the sky means rain, and when it means wait. The villagers begin to trust you, not quickly but steadily. You're the man who shows up when a roof needs bracing, the one who fixes a wheel without charging for it. Children wave when you pass. A baker sets aside a loaf for you each morning without asking. And when your hands are idle, you carve. Bits of wood, handles, arrows no one will shoot. A serpent once, coiled around a stick. You keep the pendant in a pouch now. You don't wear it. But some nights you take it out not to look at it, just to feel the weight, like touching a scar after it's healed. One afternoon, while repairing a fence along the southern edge of the village, a cart arrives carrying goods from the city. News travels with it. The games are growing more violent again. There's talk of uprisings in the Ludi. A group of gladiators tried to escape the city walls. They didn't make it. Their names weren't recorded. You nod when the merchant tells the story, not because you know them, but because you do. You dream of the arena less often now. When you do, it's not of blood or the roar of crowds. It's of silence before the gate opened, the moments between, the pause where breath was held and everything was possible. One morning, a traveler appears at your door. A woman hooded her cloak, road-worn and frayed. She's older now. You recognize her by the way she stands, still straight, still calm. She holds no parchment this time, just a sack and a look that says the world has turned too many times since she last saw you. You make tea. She doesn't ask questions. You don't offer stories. Until she says, "They still talk about you, you know, in Rome." You don't answer. She continues, "The Thraex is gone. Philinus was sold east. Cassius," she hesitates. "He didn't make it." You nod slowly. That ache again low in your chest. Not sharp, just real. She places a bundle on the table. Inside is a scroll, sealed, heavy. You don't open it. Not yet. "I don't need it," you tell her. "I know," she says. "But you earned it." You both sit in silence. Then she stands. "I won't be back," she says. "But if you ever need a name again, there are people who remember." She leaves before the kettle cools. You never ask where she's going. You burn the scroll that night, not out of anger, but because it belonged to another life, and you've already begun a new one. You stay. Seasons turn again. One day, a child appears at your workshop, eyes wide, voice trembling. Her dog has fallen into the ravine beyond the east path. Without thinking, you rise, grab a rope, and follow her. You climb down, carefully, slowly. You lift the trembling creature into your arms, wrap it in your tunic, and hand it back to her. She smiles like you're a hero from a tale. You smile too. Later, someone leaves a bottle of wine at your door. No note, just a quiet thanks. That night, you sit under the stars, legs stretched out, cup in hand. The wind moves softly through the tall grass. You close your eyes, and for the first time in all your years, you don't feel like someone who escaped. You feel like someone who arrived. Section 18 years pass. They don't announce themselves with fanfare or new wrinkles. They slip in quietly like fog curling around your ankles at dawn. One day your hair is just a little more silver, your steps a little slower. You notice the way the morning light filters through the olive trees outside your window, the same way it always has, but now it holds longer in your gaze. You've stopped measuring time by seasons. Now you measure it by the size of the children who used to wave at you in the streets. Some have grown tall enough to call you old man, half in jest, but with real respect. You don't speak of Rome, never by name. If asked where you're from, you shrug. Say only far away. People nod. They've learned not to press. Sometimes you hear travelers in the tavern still talking about the games, about the arena, about a man who spared Thraex, a man who vanished. You listen without comment. They speak of him like a ghost or a myth. You've become legend by being forgotten. On your quiet days you walk the hills. You carry a staff now not because you need it, but because it feels natural in your hand. You've carved symbols into the wood over time, spirals, leaves a sword, and once a small coiled serpent. You didn't plan it. It just appeared beneath your knife. At the top of one hill, there's an old tree where you like to sit. From there, the sea stretches blue and endless. You often sit for hours listening to the wind and watching the birds circle the cliffs. The stillness is its own kind of music. One spring, a letter arrives, delivered by hand. The boy who brings it is no older than 16, says nothing, just nods and leaves. The parchment is rough, the seal unfamiliar. Inside the writing is careful, formal. It says, "There are still those who remember. The games have changed, but the hearts behind them have not. If ever you wish to return not to the arena, but to something greater, there is work to be done." You sit with it a long time. The fire crackles nearby. Outside, the rain taps against the shutters. You fold the letter neatly, slide it beneath the old pendant in your drawer, and close it. You do not burn it, but you don't reply either. A week later, a knock comes at your door. This time it's not a traveler. It's a boy from the village, pale, shaking. His mother's gone missing near the ridge trail. Wolves, maybe. A rock slide, perhaps. No one else will go in the dark. You don't hesitate. You grab your rope, your cloak, your walking staff, and you go. The forest is thick with mist, but your feet remember how to move quietly, how to read broken twigs, how to hear things that others miss. You find her, trapped beneath a fallen log ankle, twisted eyes wide with pain and fear. She gasps when she sees you. You lift the log with a lever of stone and branch. You bandage her foot, carry her back down the trail in your arms. The boy is waiting. He cries when he sees her. No one says the word hero, but that night there's a loaf of sweet bread left on your doorstep. And the next morning, another child greets you with a drawing, a man with a sword and a staff, standing on a hill, a bird above him. You tack it to the wall and smile, not because you miss the games, but because you've learned the truth. You don't need a crowd to be remembered. You don't need a title to be strong. You don't need a sword to be free. You only need to endure, to walk forward, to meet the next knock at the door with open eyes and steady breath, because freedom isn't a moment, it's a life. Section 19. The days come slower now, but they come with a rhythm you've learned to trust. You rise before the sun, not because you must, but because something inside you still wakes to silence. You make tea from herbs you've grown, your hands brushing lavender and mint with the same care you once gave to weapons. Your fingers are stiff in the mornings, but they still remember every movement, every grip, every scar. They've become storytellers in their own way. You've become part of the village in quiet ways. You fix shutters, carve toys for the children, mend fences after storms. No one calls you a hero. No one kneels or bows or asks for tales of Rome. But they bring baskets of fruit in thanks. They send their sons to help you lift stones. They invite you to weddings, to births, to the soft, enduring ceremonies of real life. And when someone dies, you're there to hold the edge of the cloth or help dig the grave. One evening, a man you barely know finds you in the square. He's older, but not by much. A soldier once, by the way he walks. He recognizes something in you. Not your face, not your name, just the way you move. He asks quietly, "You used to fight, didn't you?" You nod. "A long time ago." He says nothing else, just puts a hand on your shoulder, then walks away. That night you take the pendant out again. You hold it in the firelight and wonder how many lives you've lived since the one that earned it. You think of the woman who gave it to you, of the scrolls, the gate, the cart, the boat, the path. You remember everything, but it doesn't burn anymore. The arena feels far away now, not like a wound, not even like a shadow. More like an old wall you once leaned against, carved your name into, and walked away from. Sometimes you wonder if they still fight in Rome, if the crowd still roars, if blood still means applause. You imagine Thraex standing in that sand just once more. You wonder if he ever made it out, if he found a path like yours, or if he died beneath the gate he once ruled. You'll never know, but part of you hopes he did. The seasons circle on. One winter the storms are worse than usual. Trees fall, roads wash away. A young couple's roof collapses, and they come to you with pale faces and shaking hands. You don't hesitate. You gather your tools, call for others to help. You teach them how to brace a beam, how to knot rope, how to stay calm when everything feels like it's crumbling. When the roof is finished, they offer you coin. You shake your head. The next morning, there's a scarf left on your doorstep, hand-stitched with leaves and stars. You wear it every day that winter. Years later, a child asks what the serpent around the sword means. You pause. You kneel beside him and run your finger along the design. It's a reminder, you say, that even the things meant to hurt us can protect us if we learn how to carry them. The child doesn't understand. Not yet. But he nods anyway. He'll grow into it. You walk home under a sky thick with stars, your breath curling into the cold. You no longer wonder who you are. You're the man who lived. Section 20. Spring returns with soft steps. The hills blush green again, and the almond trees bloom in sudden bursts, white petals floating down like lazy snow. You find yourself watching the world with more patience than before. You no longer move quickly unless you must. You listen more than you speak. You feel the weight of each day in your bones. But it's not a burden. It's a kind of grounding, like a tree whose roots grow deeper the longer it stands. One morning, you visit the market as you always do. The baker greets you by name. The fishmonger throws in an extra fillet without saying why. A young girl runs up with a bundle of wildflowers and shoves them into your hand before dashing off laughing. You tuck the stems into your satchel without a word. The color is enough. At the far end of the road near the stone well, a group of boys practices sparring with sticks. They shout and stumble, swinging wildly, full of energy and chaos. One of them catches your eye and runs over. "Can you show us?" he asks, just once the way you stood in the fight. You raise an eyebrow. He mimics a dramatic stance, feet-wide, arms overhead like a caricature of a hero. You smile, shake your head, then gently correct him, feet closer. Weight forward, eyes steady. You place the stick in his hand a new way. Balanced, focused. He nods, suddenly serious. The other boys gather around, watching, listening. You show them how to move without falling over their own feet, how to breathe through the strike, how to watch the opponent's shoulders, not their sword. You don't tell them where you learned these things. You don't need to. They thank you with wide grins and rush off to practice, sticks clacking like wooden drums behind you. You walk home slowly, that same rhythm pulsing in your chest. That evening, the village holds a small gathering to celebrate the planting season. Lanterns are lit and hung along the rooftops. Musicians gather near the square, playing soft melodies on flutes and lyres. There's bread and cheese and olives laid out on long wooden tables. Children dance barefoot in the dust. You stand at the edge of it all, watching. Someone hands you a cup of wine. You raise it. Sip, feel the warmth spread through your chest. It's not strong, but it's enough. Across the square, a woman catches your eye. She smiles. You've seen her before at the well at the market once, handing out food after a bad storm. She walks over, calm, unhurried. "You don't dance?" she asks. "Not in years," you say. She tilts her head. "Maybe it's time." You set down your cup. Take her hand. Let her lead. The music is gentle, the steps simple. You move slowly, carefully, your feet remembering how to follow. She doesn't speak. Neither do you. But when the music fades and the sky fills with stars, she squeezes your hand once before letting go. You walk home in silence. You lie awake a little longer than usual. You think of the way your feet moved, the way your body still remembered. You think of how life, after all its violence, still offers this. Moments. Kindness. A chance to be something other than what the world made you. The next morning, a new child is born in the village. Bells ring. A midwife sings quietly under her breath. A man hammers nails to repair a door. The world turns, and you rise, just like always. One more day, one more step, one more breath in the long, quiet life of the man who was never supposed to leave that arena, but did. Section 21. The days settle into a pattern so gentle you almost forget they're passing. Morning light creeps through your window in familiar bands. You stir slowly now, not from urgency, but from the comfort of habit. You no longer count time in weeks or months, but by the olive harvests, by the children's changing heights, by the way the light bends differently across the floor as the year turns. You've grown into this quiet life like a tree into stone, slowly, steadily, without apology. One afternoon, while you're repairing a broken gate on the north edge of the village, a rider arrives. His horse is lean and quick foam flecking its mouth. The rider wears travel-stained robes and a leather satchel slung across his back. He stops near the well, dismounts stiffly, and begins asking for someone who can read old documents. You're called not because you're a scholar, but because people trust your calm. They trust that you don't speak of things that don't belong to you. You walk over slowly, wiping your hands on your tunic. The rider greets you with a nod and opens his satchel. Inside are scrolls, weathered, cracked at the edges, sealed in the fashion of old Rome. One bears a mark you recognize, a serpent, coiled around a sword. Your heart doesn't leap. It just tightens. He speaks plainly. They're looking for names, survivors, men who left. You ask, why now? He shrugs, because someone new is rising in the capital, someone who wants to know who they can trust. They believe those who lived through the arena know something others do not. You scan the parchment. The list is long, dozens of names, some familiar, some ghosts, some scratched out marked, confirmed dead. Yours is on it, but next to it is a question mark, not confirmed, not forgotten. You hand it back to him. You're not going to Rome, he asks. No. He studies your face. There's coin in it. Land, maybe. I have land, you say. And I've already earned my coin. He nods slowly, doesn't argue, just rolls up the scroll, returns it to the satchel, and offers his hand. You shake it. Before he leaves, he says, "They still talk about you." You reply, "Let them." That night, the stars seem closer, the wind gentler. You sit near your fire, the pendant resting beside your cup. You no longer wear it, but you don't forget what it meant. You don't need reminders carved in metal. You carry those lessons in your bones, in the calluses of your hands, in the slow, deliberate way you stand when others panic. Weeks later, a storm rolls in from the west. The sea hurls wind at the village. Roofs creak. Trees bend low. The river swells. You join the others, piling sandbags, reinforcing doors, calming frightened animals. The youngest children cling to their mothers. The elders sit quietly, remembering storms from decades past. You move between them all, saying little, doing much. That night, as rain lashes the shutters, you host 2 families in your home. They sleep on the floor, bundled in blankets, comforted by the steadiness of your presence. One of the children wakes from a bad dream, crying softly. You sit beside him, place a hand on his back, and hum a tune you haven't thought about in years, one your mother used to sing long before the chains. The child falls asleep. In the morning, the storm breaks. Sunlight streams through the clouds in golden spears. The villagers gather in the square to count the damage, to share food, to laugh in relief. A neighbor places a hand on your shoulder and says, "You never panic." You smile. "I've seen worse." And that's true. You've seen the underside of the world, felt the crush of the crowd's voice, watched men fall with no names left to be spoken. You've lived through the sound of metal and bone, and the silence that follows a mercy denied. And now you live through this: a roof to mend, a dog to feed, a cup of warm soup on a cool morning. One day a girl from the next town visits. She's traveling with a merchant caravan. Her eyes are sharp, her questions faster than most. She watches you closely. After helping her fix a broken axle, she sits beside you beneath the fig tree. "Were you a soldier?" she asks. You pause. "Something like that. A gladiator." You don't flinch. Once. Her eyes widen. "Did you kill people?" You nod. "Yes." "Do you regret it?" Another pause. "I regret what brought me there." She thinks about this. "Would you ever go back?" You shake your head. "I already left once. That's enough." She seems to understand. She stands, thanks you, leaves with the caravan. Later that night you sit alone under the stars again. You watch the flames dance in the fire pit and think of all the nights like this you've survived. The early ones in cages, the ones in holding cells beneath the Colosseum, the ones on quiet roads hiding in your own skin. You take a deep breath. You are no longer hiding. You haven't hidden in a long time. And in that thought, something settles. Not peace exactly, but closure. You go inside, set the pendant back into its wooden box, and close the lid. You don't need it anymore. You are the life that rose after the fight ended. Section 22. The years keep moving even when you don't. You feel them most in your hands now, aching more in the morning, tightening more in the cold. You no longer lift stones like you used to, and when you swing the axe, you measure each stroke with care. But the strength hasn't left you. It's just settled, deepened, transformed into something quieter. People still come to you. They ask for help fixing doors, mending tools, settling disputes. You rarely say much, just listen, then offer what you can. Sometimes that's advice, sometimes it's a nail and hammer, sometimes just a presence. The new children in the village don't know your past. They've never seen a sword in your hand. To them you are the man with the stories, the steady voice, the gentle hands that carve animals from wood. A lion, a falcon, once even a tiny figure of a gladiator with his arm raised high. The boy who received it asked if the man was a hero. You only smiled. "He learned to walk away," you said. One afternoon a traveling troupe arrives in the square. Musicians, actors, and 2 jugglers with worn boots and bright scarves. They set up a small stage and begin performing tales of ancient wars, lost kings, gods who rose from the sea. The villagers gather quickly, laughter echoing, children bouncing on their heels, faces wide with wonder. You stand in the back, arms crossed, watching. It's been a long time since you saw a crowd look at something that wasn't meant to die. Near the end of the show, the lead actor steps forward, voice booming. And now the hero of the arena, the man who defied the blade, who fought the beast and bowed to no master. You freeze. They don't say your name, but they tell your story, loosely, wildly embellished. The arena becomes a labyrinth. The emperor becomes a tyrant. The crowd chants for blood, and the hero says no. There's a fire, a daring escape, a fight on the rooftops. The man disappears into the smoke. The children cheer. The crowd claps. You say nothing. Afterward, as they pack up their props, one of the actors approaches you. He's young, barely out of boyhood, but his eyes are sharp. You watched the whole thing, he says. You nod. He studies you. It's real, isn't it? You raise an eyebrow. He lowers his voice. The story. You were him. You pause a long moment, then smile gently. Stories are just lessons wrapped in noise. He doesn't press, he just bows his head. That night you sit outside your door, fire crackling low. A dog curls at your feet, one you took in last winter after it limped into the village ribs, showing eyes cautious. It stays close now, like it knows something about who you used to be. You sip warm broth and watch the stars. One breaks loose, falls. You don't make a wish, you just watch. In the morning, the market is lively again. Someone paints a new mural on the outer wall, images of harvest, of dancing, of the ocean. At the corner, a figure stands holding a spear, not a soldier, not a killer. Just a sentinel, eyes calm, back straight. It's not your face, but the stance feels familiar. You keep walking. The healer asks for help gathering herbs on the hillside. You go. Along the way, she talks about the young people leaving for the city, about how the world keeps turning. You nod. You've lived long enough to know that change isn't something to fight. It's something to walk beside. That evening, a letter arrives. This time, no seal, just parchment folded neatly. Inside, one sentence. He made it out. He lives. Far north. He remembers. You don't need to ask who. You fold the letter, place it beside the others. You stare out the window long after the sun is set. The world has grown bigger since you left the arena. Not because it changed, because you did. And in this quiet corner in this place with no gates, no blades, no names written in blood, you realize something. You didn't just survive, you outlived them all. Continue ChatGPT Danoi, Section 23. Another season turns, and this time it's spring again. The fields breathe green, bees return to the orchards, and children chase each other barefoot between the rows of flowering trees. The world wakes up without hesitation. You rise early as always, but now you take your time tying your sandals. The leather is cracked like your hands, and every step tells the story of miles walked in silence. There's a gathering in the village square. Not a feast, not a funeral, just a shared day of labor. Repairs on the old barn, clearing stones from the path, repainting the well. Everyone brings something: time. Tools, food, laughter. You carry a hammer and a bag of nails, slow but steady. The younger ones do the lifting now, but they still look to you before calling it done. Your nod means something, not authority. Trust. That afternoon, you sit in the shade with a bowl of soup and watch two boys wrestle in the grass. Their moves are wild, sloppy, all elbows and noise. One tries to mimic a fighter's stance. It's a poor imitation feat, too wide balance, all wrong. But you recognize the intent. It's not about hurting. It's about learning where their strength lives. Later, the village elder stops by with a question about boundary markers. You walk the edge of the orchard together, counting paces, marking stones. As you return, he says, "When you first came, we thought you might leave again. Most men like you do." You don't answer. "But you stayed," he adds, nodding toward the hills. "We needed that." At home, you sort through an old chest. Inside are a few relics from before: an iron buckle, a bit of old cloth, the staff you carved with the serpent winding up its side. You trace the wood with your fingers. The grooves feel familiar, like an old friend's voice. You leave the chest open that night, the fire low, the air warm with the smell of soil and blossoms. Dreams come easily, not of battles, not even of Rome, just memories of hands held, of faces seen once and remembered always. You wake before dawn, not startled, just aware. That morning a stranger arrives. A traveler, tired, dust on his boots, hunger in his face. You invite him in. He eats like someone who's forgotten what full feels like. Between bites, he tells you of distant cities, of changing roads, of statues torn down and rebuilt. He mentions names you haven't heard in decades. Then he says it. The games have ended. You set down your cup. They say the last arena was closed months ago. No more blood for applause. The crowds don't cheer anymore. You don't speak. He continues, "Some are angry. They say tradition's being lost. Others are relieved." He doesn't know who he's talking to. You just nod. When he leaves, you walk to the fig tree, the same one from years ago. The branches are thicker now, the shade deeper. You sit beneath it, A breeze lifts the edge of your tunic, carries the sound of distant bells. The games are over, not just for you, for everyone. You lie back against the trunk, eyes closed. The world is quieter than it has ever been, and you think of them, all the ones who didn't get out, the ones who did, the ones who lived long enough to be forgotten. You whisper something you haven't said in years, not a prayer, not a promise, just a name, your real one, softly, only once. The tree hears it, and that's enough. Section 24. Summer returns with a kind of stillness that feels earned. The days grow long and golden, stretching lazily over the fields through open windows across the ridgelines where birds skim low. You wake each morning not to the pull of obligation, but to the rhythm of habit. A quiet bowl of porridge, the creak of the well rope, the breeze brushing past your doorway like an old friend who never knocks. You walk slower now, not because of pain, but because there's no need to hurry. You know these paths. You know which stones wobble where the wild rosemary grows, which tree hums with bees come midday. Sometimes children walk with you, scattering questions about faraway cities, about beasts and battles, and stories their parents swear are true. You smile. You listen. You answer just enough to make them wonder. One evening, the healer stops by with a basket of apples and a question. Her daughter is nearly grown now, strong and curious, and has heard rumors. She says you're a warrior, the healer says softly, not accusing, not pressing. She wants to know if you ever fought in the games. You nod once. The healer exhales as if she'd always known. I told her, she continues, that there are many kinds of strength. You offer her tea. She accepts. The two of you sit outside as the sun sinks the air warm and heavy with the scent of ripening fruit. She tells you how the village has changed since you arrived. She names the people who came, the ones who left, the ones who stayed. She talks about the river shifting its course, the soil growing richer each year. Her voice is soft, like a lullaby sung to the land. Later, after she leaves, you light a small lamp and sit by your window. You pull the wooden box from beneath the bed. Inside, the pendant still rests. The serpent, the sword untouched for years. You lift it once more, not with urgency, but with care, and study it in the dim glow. There was a time you thought this piece of metal was your fate. Now it's just a memory with weight. The next day, a traveler arrives, not young, not old, quiet, watchful. He carries no blade, only a pack and a letter sealed with unfamiliar wax. He finds you at the edge of the village, splitting firewood. He introduces himself as a scribe, says he's compiling histories not for emperors, not for glory, but for truth. He's been tracing the names of those who vanished from the old lists. Survivors. Ghosts. He says your name, the one you haven't heard aloud in decades. You don't answer at first. He offers the letter. Inside are copied lines from a scroll. Your name, the date of your last fight, a note in faded ink. Disappeared, presumed dead, unconfirmed. You hand the letter back. I'm not dead, you say. He smiles gently. I know, but others should too. The ones still searching, the ones still fighting. You don't agree, but you don't stop him. He stays one night, sleeps by your hearth, leaves at dawn. You don't expect to see him again. Weeks later, a letter arrives. This one is different. It's from Thraex, the man whose blade you once met in blood and silence. The man who bowed instead of finishing it. He lives, far in the north, where the sea carves the land and people speak in short words with long meanings. His letter is simple, just a few lines. I heard you lived. I hoped it was true. I've built a small life. Not loud, not rich, but mine. I hope yours is the same. You read it 3 times before folding it carefully and placing it beside the pendant. And that night you sit beneath the stars, as you have so many times, and whisper into the dark, I'm still here, and the world, steady and slow, whispers back, so am I. Section 25. Autumn arrives with a hush. The trees flame gold and red before letting go. Leaves drift across the footpaths like forgotten thoughts, each one curling at the edges, whispering of ends and of returns. You walk among them daily now wrapped in a thick cloak, your steps measured, each breath visible in the cooling air. The aches in your joints speak louder, but you've stopped minding them. They're just echoes, reminders that this body has lived. The villagers begin preparing for the harvest festival. Baskets are mended, lanterns hung, grain counted. You help where you can, carving new stakes for the drying racks, showing the children how to twist bundles of herbs to hang above the doors. They laugh as they work, not knowing that hands like yours once held swords instead of twine. One evening, while stacking wood behind your house, you pause. Not from pain, but from the sound of song, soft, distant, familiar. A tune once hummed beneath the roar of crowds by someone who stitched wounds and whispered prayers in the tunnels under the Colosseum. You close your eyes. You remember the cool stone of the infirmary, the stale scent of iron, the hands that shook but kept stitching. When you open your eyes again, you are still standing in your yard. The sun has set, but the song lingers. Or maybe it's just the wind. That night you make a decision. You take the serpent pendant once more, polish it, wrap it in cloth, and tuck it into a pouch, along with a carved figure of a man holding a shield, one of your quieter carvings. At dawn, you walk to the village edge and find a rider passing through. You hand him the pouch with a name and a town scratched into wood. To the north, you say, for an old friend. The rider nods. No questions. And just like that, the weight you've carried for years grows lighter. Weeks pass. The first frost clings to the grass. The harvest comes in full and fat, the barns bursting. The festival is simple. Tables filled with bread and roasted nuts. Music played on worn strings and hollowed drums. You sit at the edge of it all, cup of cider in your hand, dog at your feet, watching firelight flicker against smiling faces. Someone dances in the square. Someone else sings. No one bleeds. No one fights. You catch yourself smiling more now. At little things. At nothing. At the way a girl braids her sister's hair by the well. Or how the blacksmith hums to himself when no one's listening. You've become a fixture in the village. A landmark, some say. When they describe where the path forks, they say near his house. When a child asks how to tie a knot, they send her to you. When someone's in trouble, your name is spoken with trust, and you never asked for any of it. One morning you wake before light and walk to the hilltop, the one where the fig tree used to stand before a storm finally took it. You stand where its roots once lived and watch the horizon. It's quiet up here. The kind of quiet that holds everything. You think of everyone you knew. You whisper their names one by one. Not with sorrow, with gratitude. You speak Cassius's name and remember the way he coughed and smiled anyway. Philinus, who always had a joke before every match. Varro, who said little but never flinched. Thraex, whose silence taught you more than 1,000 words. And the woman, who gave you a token and a choice. You wonder where she is now. Then you let the silence take those names and carry them into the wind. That evening a boy from the village brings you a scroll. He found it wrapped around a bottle of oil in the latest caravan shipment. The seal is broken, the ink faint. It's from a man in the east, one of the last known Lanistae still alive. He writes only this. You disappeared, but your story didn't. You laugh softly, a dry, amused sound. Because of course it didn't. Of course the story kept going. It always does. But you know the truth. The story people tell is just a shadow. You are the one who walked through it and stepped out whole. And when the boy asks, was it really you? You look at him and simply say, it was. And that's enough. Section 26. Winter arrives with grace, not fury. The wind is sharper now, yes, and the frost bites a little deeper into the wood of your door, but it comes without threat. Just change. Just quiet. The world narrows footpaths grow fewer markets. Thin voices lower. You spend more time indoors mending things. Tools cloaks the woven edge of an old rug. You fix what can be fixed. You let the rest be. Your hair has gone white. Your hands tremble slightly when cold, but your movements still carry weight. Precision. Presence. You no longer need to remind people who you were. You're not someone who needs remembering. You're someone known. The children who once watched you from behind their mothers now greet you in the square calling your name, your new name, the only one they've ever known. Some ask to learn how to carve. Others ask if it's true you once tamed lions. You smile, tell them lions aren't meant to be tamed, only understood. They nod like they believe it's wisdom, and maybe it is. One morning, as you sit at your workbench tracing a half-finished bird in wood, the healer arrives again. Her daughter stands with her, now grown and curious. She carries parchment. She speaks clearly. "I want to write your story." You blink. Why? Because people remember shadows. I want them to know the shape the shadow came from. You set your tools down, look at her steady eyes, her steady hands. You won't find glory in it, you say. "I'm not looking for glory," she replies. "Just truth." You don't say yes, but you don't say no either. She visits once a week, sits with you by the fire. She listens, she writes. She asks things others never dared. You tell her about the sand, about the waiting, the noise, the silence between strikes. You tell her about the weight of armor on a tired spine and the feeling of lifting your blade not to win, but simply to keep breathing. You tell her about the people more than the fights. She asks if you ever felt proud of what you did. You answer slowly, "I'm proud I stopped." Winter deepens, snow arrives. The village shrinks into itself, chimney smoke rising like thin arms reaching toward warmer skies. You teach the older boys how to chop wood safely, how to stack it so it won't rot. You fix the latch on the door of the meeting hall. You help bury an old man who didn't survive the sickness that swept in with the wind. You speak at his burial, not because you were asked to, because no one else could. You say only this: he lived fully. He left quietly. That's enough. And it is. It always has been. The healer's daughter finishes her scroll. You don't read it, but she does. She reads it aloud in the square when the snows begin to melt. People gather unsure at first, but they stay. They listen. Your name is spoken. Your real one. Some gasp, some nod, some smile like they always knew. She tells your story, not just the arena, not just the pain, but the quiet, the rebuilding, the life after. When it ends, the crowd doesn't cheer. They don't need to. They just stand and look at you with something more than admiration. Understanding. Later that night, you sit beside your fire with a blanket over your knees, the dog curled close. The wind howls outside. You close your eyes and think of the arena one last time, not as a place of death, but as a doorway. You walked through it. You didn't shut it behind you. You grew beyond it. When you sleep, you dream of a road, no chains, no gates, just sky, and soft footsteps behind you, not chasing, following. Because your story was never just yours. It was always meant to lead someone else out too. Section 27. The thaw comes quietly this year. No sudden floods, no cracking ice. Just slow drips from the eaves puddles forming in the grooves of the village square, and bird song that returns like a voice long absent but never quite forgotten. You watch it unfold from your doorway each morning, hands wrapped around a warm cup, the dog resting at your feet, the world stretching slowly into color again. Your steps have shortened. You notice it, but no one says anything. The villagers treat it like weather acknowledged only in passing, respected without fuss. Children still greet you by name, and now their children too. Some just learning to walk stumble toward your bench and try to mimic the way you carve small animals from olive wood. One of them, tiny, wild-haired, full of questions, asks you why your hands shake sometimes. You smile. Hold out your palm. Let him touch the lines and calluses, the history written in skin. Because I've held too many things, you tell him. And now they echo back. He doesn't understand, not yet, but he nods like he does. The healer's daughter visits again now, not with parchment, but with her child. She says she named him after you, not your real name, not the one the scrolls once recorded, but the name you earned here, the one the village gave you, the one that came with shelter and soil and silence. You feel it in your chest, the way it warms and presses without hurting. You hold the boy once, just once. He doesn't cry. He looks at you like you are a tree or a mountain, something that simply is. That night, you stay awake longer than usual. The stars are clearer, the fire lower. You sort through your carvings, the animals, the tools, the tokens of a life rebuilt slowly and without ceremony. Among them, at the bottom of a cedar box, is the serpent pendant. The metal is dull now, but the details remain. You trace its shape. It no longer feels like a weapon or a warning, just a part of a story. Yours. The next day you begin giving things away. Not all at once, just a little at a time. The sharpest knife to the blacksmith's son, the staff to a boy who walks with a limp but never complains, the carvings to the schoolhouse where they'll sit on windowsills and shelves and remind young minds that beauty can come from patience. People ask why. You just smile. Better in their hands than buried with mine. Some shake their heads chuckling. Some don't understand at all. But some do. One evening you're invited to the gathering hall for a meal. It's not a celebration. It's just a supper. Bread, broth, cheese, the usual. But every seat is full, and every voice is soft. A young woman stands up and reads a passage from the scroll your story inspired. Her voice doesn't tremble. She reads the part where you lowered your blade, the part where you walked away, the part where you chose to live instead of perform. You look down at your hands. They're still shaking, but they're clean. Afterwards, someone sings, a soft tune without words. You don't know who wrote it, but it feels familiar. That night you walk back home beneath a sky lit silver with moonlight. The path is uneven. You take your time. At your door, the dog rises to greet you. You sit together outside wrapped in a blanket. You stare at the trees and the quiet houses and the fields beyond. And when you finally speak, it's not to the dog. It's to the wind or the stars, or maybe just to yourself. I didn't win every fight, you whisper, but I won my life, and you lean back, and you rest, and the night holds you like a promise kept. Section 28. The final frost of the year melts under a sun that feels gentler than it used to. The village wakes with it. Carts creak again along stone paths. Shutters open to let the morning in, and the smell of bread baking returns to the air. You wake too, but slower. Your bones speak louder now. Each movement begins with stillness. You don't rush them. There's nothing waiting that can't wait a little longer. You tend your small garden behind the house. It's not large, just enough for herbs and a row of late spring beans, but your hands remember how to coax life from the dirt. You kneel longer than you should, feeling the ground give way beneath your fingers. The soil is warm, ready, like it always has been. Children pass your fence and wave. You wave back. That evening, a group of boys knock at your door, their faces flushed with excitement. One holds a carved stick like a sword. Another has fashioned a round shield from a broken barrel lid. Show us again, they ask. How to move like the old fighters. You chuckle softly, set down your cup, and walk with them to the clearing just beyond the village wall. The sun is low, casting long shadows. You correct their stances, gently reposition their feet, show them how to stay balanced, not for war, but for life. How to breathe before they act. How to move without wasting movement, not to dominate, not to win, but to endure. One of them, the smallest, tries to mimic your pivot and falls flat into the grass. You help him up. He laughs. You laugh too. It feels good. Later, as the stars emerge, the boys run home, promising to return tomorrow. You walk slowly back to your house. The lamp in the window glows softly. The dog lifts its head and thumps its tail once before resting again. You sit beneath the fig tree's replacement, a young one, now its branches just beginning to stretch toward the sky. You planted it 5 years ago. It's taken root. You look at your hands. They're thinner now. The scars more pronounced. One finger curves inward slightly. But they still work. They still do. You reach into your coat and pull out the scroll, the letter from Thraex. You read it again. The ink is fading, but his words still breathe on the page. He spoke of peace, of solitude, of a life reborn through simplicity. You hope he found it. You hope he held it tightly. A breeze stirs the leaves above you. You close your eyes and remember. You remember the weight of the shield, the sun blinding unpolished sand, the moment before a gate rose, the silence before the crowd screamed, the sting of sweat in your eyes, the roar that followed a blow, the aching silence when it ended. And then you remember what came after. The road, the cold, the gate that opened not into combat but into uncertainty. You remember the first time you breathed freely, not because you were safe, but because you chose not to fight. You open your eyes. The stars are thick above you, layered in ribbons of silver. You lie back on the ground, hands folded behind your head, the tree's branches reaching out above you like arms. The grass is cool, the night quiet. The world no longer needs you to be anything but this. Present, breathing. Here, you smile, because you know now glory fades, but peace endures. Section 29. The days grow long again. Warmth settles across the land like an old blanket returned to its rightful place. You begin to notice the signs not of change, but of completion. The fence you repaired last autumn still holds strong. The fig sapling you planted now casts enough shade to sit under without shifting. The bench outside your door, carved with your own hands, has begun to wear smooth from use. Everything has softened, even you. You wake before dawn now, not from habit or pain, but because the quiet before the sun rises is still your favorite moment. You sip your tea slowly, listening to the birds waking one by one like musicians tuning for a song only the morning knows. The dog no longer bounds to greet the day, he's slower now like you. But he still presses his nose into your hand, still follows your steps without command. One morning you receive a visitor. A woman wrapped in a light traveling cloak, hair streaked with silver eyes that once watched from shadows. You know her before she speaks. Her steps are familiar, her presence unmistakable. She sits beside you on the bench, says nothing for a long while. Then you stayed. You nod. You found me. I wasn't looking, but I'm glad I did. She reaches into her bag and pulls out a thin book, bound in twine, covered in simple linen. This is yours, she says. Or rather, it's about you. The scroll became a story. The story became a lesson. And now the lesson belongs to others. You turn the pages slowly. Inside are drawings rough but honest, of the arena, of the sword and the serpent, of you and her, and the road beyond Rome. The words are carefully written lines of quiet truth, without glory, without spectacle. It's being shared in schools, she says, taught alongside the myths. So, children know the difference between a legend and a man who lived. You close the book gently. Do they understand, you ask? Enough. The two of you sit for hours talking in fragments. You share news of Thraex, he's teaching now too, somewhere far away. His own story, his own peace. She tells you the last of the old arenas has been dismantled, the stones repurposed to build schools, gardens, homes. The roar of the crowd has quieted at last. As the sun dips low, she stands. I'm leaving tomorrow. but I needed to see the ending for myself. You rise slowly. Your knees creak, but your back is straight. This isn't the ending, you say. She smiles. No, just a page turn. She presses the book into your hands. Keep it. It's not just your story anymore. Then she walks away, and you let her go. That night the wind rises early, not fierce, just constant like a memory brushing the edge of your thoughts. You sit beneath the fig tree, the book in your lap, the dog curled at your feet. The stars begin to break through the fading blue above. You speak aloud to the night, not loudly, but with certainty. I was never a hero. The dog stirs. You rest a hand on his back. I was just a man who didn't stop walking, and now, here you are, still walking, still breathing, still whole. Section 30. The final summer you witness arrives softly. No grand signs, just the gentle shift of the breeze, the scent of sun-warmed earth, the sound of distant laughter echoing from the square. You rise from your bed as always, though now it takes longer. The joints protest more often than not, the legs hesitate before they follow your command. But still they move. You sit on the bench beneath the fig tree each morning, the one that grew from your hands, from your hope. Its branches now stretch far enough to cover you completely. Leaves dance in the wind, casting soft, dappled shadows across your face and lap. The dog lies beside you, older, slower breathing in tandem with your silence. The village is alive. Children run, elders sing. The sound of hammers striking nails mingles with the low drone of bees moving between flowers. Life continues, and that you think is the greatest miracle of all. You no longer dream of the arena, not even in shadows, not even in flickers. The roar of the crowd has fallen away completely, like waves retreating from a shore they've washed over for too long. What remains is quieter, truer. One morning you awake and know. Your steps are slower than ever, your breath shallower, but there is no fear in it. You dress carefully, wash your hands, comb your hair. You sit outside as the sky turns pink at the edges, sipping from your favorite cup. The warmth of the tea soaks into your fingers. People pass and wave. You nod. You speak to no one that day, but they understand. They know. At midday you place the book, your story, on the edge of the bench. Someone will find it. Someone always does. You rest your hand on the dog's head. He doesn't move. He knows too. You close your eyes beneath the tree you planted, the one that grew because you chose not to die in the sand. The one that grew because you chose life when no one offered it to you. The breeze is warm. The leaves rustle like soft laughter. The last thing you hear is the sound of children in the distance and the wind whispering through the branches, and then stillness. But not silence. Because even in that final breath, the world remembers you. Not as the man who fought, not as the man who killed, but as the man who endured, who healed, who walked away. The next morning they find you beneath the tree, peaceful hands folded, the pendant resting on your chest, the serpent coiled around the sword, a symbol now not of death, but of rebirth. They do not mourn with loud voices. They do not build monuments. They plant another tree beside yours. And that is enough. The story, of course, continues, whispered in the marketplace, told beside fires, read in the scrolls that now carry your name without fear. And if a child someday asks if the man beneath the tree was real, someone will nod and say yes, he was real, and he lived.